You're carrying a burden right now that was never yours to bear. Every day, you pour your energy into things you cannot command, people's opinions, uncertain futures, outcomes that slip through your fingers no matter how tightly you hold on. You worry, you argue with reality, you tie your peace to forces that change with the wind. But what if you could step back? What if you could let go of everything outside your control and finally breathe? This is not about giving up. It's about gaining power, the only real power you will ever have. When you learn to detach from what you can't control, you reclaim your mind from chaos. You stop wasting strength on the impossible and invest it where it truly matters. Your choices, your attitude, your next step. How do you do this? You begin with one question: is this in my hands? If the answer is no, let it go. Withdraw your energy from the storms outside and build calm within. Every act of letting go sharpens your clarity, steadies your heart, and brings you back to the only place peace is possible, right here, right now, within yourself. 1. You are haunted by things that were never yours to command. You wake each day already carrying battles you never chose. Before the sun even rises, your mind is crowded with shadows, memories you cannot rewrite, people you cannot control, outcomes you cannot force. These thoughts cling to you like invisible chains, pulling your attention away from the present moment and burying it under the weight of what was never in your hands. You move through the hours with this quiet tension inside you, as if you are forever bracing for a storm that does not belong to you. And yet, you keep fighting it. You tighten your body, sharpen your emotions, and gather your energy as if sheer force could bend reality into obedience. But nothing changes. The world refuses to move at your command. And the harder you try to control it, the more exhausted you become. This is the tragedy of a mind at war with things outside its reach. You believe that if you worry enough, anticipate enough, care enough, you might finally gain control. Yet every worry steals a moment from your life. Every attempt to control the uncontrollable drains the strength you need for the battles that are actually yours. Why keep pouring your spirit into things that care nothing for your suffering? The world will be what it is: chaotic, unpredictable, indifferent. But you do not have to be at its mercy. Your power does not lie in forcing outcomes, silencing critics, or bending circumstances to your will. Your power lies in ruling the one domain that has always belonged to you, your inner world. You can choose your attitude. You can shape your response. You can build your character. You can sharpen your thinking. Everything else is borrowed. Everything else is temporary. Everything else will slip through your fingers no matter how tightly you hold on. The moment you accept this truth, something remarkable happens. The chains loosen. The weight lifts. The world no longer presses against your chest with the same suffocating force, because you no longer treat it as something you must control. Why give your peace to storms that were never yours? Why allow the behavior of others to dictate your emotional weather? Every time you react without reflection, every time you chase approval, every time you replay a moment you cannot change, you hand your strength to the wind. You scatter your power in 1,000 directions until nothing remains for what truly matters: your growth, your purpose, your discipline. Letting go is not weakness. It is not surrender. It is clarity. It is the understanding that control over the external world is an illusion, but control over yourself is real, immediate, and life-changing. When you withdraw your energy from what you cannot command, you reclaim it for what you can. You begin to shape your inner life with intention. You become less reactive, more grounded, more awake. You stop being a puppet of circumstance and start becoming the author of your existence. How do you begin this transformation? You start by observing your mind. You catch yourself reaching for control where none exists. You pause before your emotions run wild. You breathe before your thoughts spiral. You remind yourself again and again that you are responsible only for your effort, not the outcome. Slowly, you detach from the chaos around you, not out of coldness, but out of wisdom. You cannot stop the storms, but you can stop offering yourself to them. You cannot silence the world, but you can silence the noise within. You cannot command life, but you can command yourself. And when you finally learn to do that, when you master the only kingdom truly yours, you will discover the freedom you have been chasing your entire life. 2. Emotions thrown. Every day, emotions rise in you like a sudden tide: anger, envy, excitement, dread. They arrive uninvited and make themselves at home, whispering commands that shape your words and twist your actions. At first, you don't notice their grip. You think you're choosing freely, but quietly, you're being led by invisible hands. Someone's careless words trigger your temper. A stranger's approval sparks joy. Disappointment turns your mood dark for hours. Without realizing it, you surrender the keys to your own mind, letting outside forces drive your day. You think, I just feel this way, I can't help it. But what if you could? What if emotion was a visitor, not a master? Your emotions are powerful. They can spark courage or breed destruction. They can drive you to greatness or drag you into ruin. The one who never questions their feelings becomes a slave to impulse, reacting to every bump in the road, mistaking every emotion for truth. You see it everywhere: lives destroyed by unchecked anger, opportunities missed because of fear, friendships lost over wounded pride. Is this how you want to live? Why let every emotion pass through you without challenge, as if your mind were a road without a gate? Every time you obey a feeling without question, you give away a piece of yourself. But you are not helpless. You can become the ruler of your emotional world, not by denial, not by pretending you do not feel, but by learning to pause, to watch, to choose. The difference between the weak and the strong is not the absence of feeling, but the presence of discipline. The strongest person you will ever meet is not the one who never feels anger, but the one who feels it fully and chooses not to let it rule them. They recognize emotion as part of life, but never the whole story. They notice the surge of feeling, but do not let it drive the next word, the next action, the next regret. How do you claim this authority? It begins in stillness. When emotion rises, stop. Feel its heat, but do not act. Ask yourself, what triggered this? Is it true or just a reflex? Does this feeling deserve power over what I do next? Most emotions fade if you let them breathe without feeding them. Give yourself space between feeling and action. That space is your freedom. It is where you decide, not react. The more you practice this, the stronger your self-mastery becomes. It is not easy at first. You will fail 100 times. But every moment of awareness is a brick in the fortress you build around your mind. In time, you notice a shift. You are no longer carried helplessly by the tides of mood. You become steady, unshakable, capable of facing storms with composure. You begin to choose your words, your reactions, your silences. You become less predictable to others and more reliable to yourself. Anger comes, but it finds no easy home. Fear visits, but does not rearrange your life. Even joy, when it arrives, is appreciated but not clung to. You become free from the tyranny of emotional reaction. You are not your anger. You are not your sadness, your fear, your envy. You are the one who witnesses them, weighs them, decides their place in your day. The world will always try to provoke you: circumstances, people, disappointments, surprises. But when you refuse to surrender the throne of your mind, you become truly powerful. That is the secret. Emotions are not chains unless you let them be. You alone decide who rules within. In that decision is your greatest strength, your deepest peace, and the beginning of real freedom. 3. Not your chaos. Everywhere you turn, the world demands your attention. People vent their frustrations, broadcast their anxieties, and invite you into battles that were never yours to fight. Their storms swirl loud opinions, sharp criticism, relentless complaints filling the air around you with invisible tension. Sometimes, without realizing, you absorb these tempests. Their mood becomes your mood. Their panic becomes your panic. You start to lose yourself, swept along by forces that do not belong to you. You carry anger that is not your own, answer to problems that are not yours, lose sleep over what someone else refuses to face. But ask yourself how much of this weight was ever truly meant for you. You were not built to carry every burden that passes by. The world is a noisy place. People will always try to hand you their chaos, their drama, their expectations, their discontent. Some do it carelessly, others intentionally. They spill their unrest into your lap, hoping you will help lighten their load or validate their suffering. If you're not careful, you start to believe you are responsible for their peace, their happiness, even their mistakes. You try to solve their problems, fix their messes, manage their moods. And all the while, your own life slips out of focus, growing smaller as you are consumed by what was never yours. But you must remember, boundaries are not selfish. They are survival. To endure, you must learn the art of separation between what belongs to you and what belongs to others. It is not your job to calm every storm or heal every wound. You can offer support, wisdom, and kindness, but you are not a dumping ground for other people's disorder. Why let their chaos write the story of your day? Why allow their unresolved fears to invade the peace you fought so hard to build? The answer is simple, but not easy. Hold the line. Visualize yourself as a mountain solid, unmoved, watching clouds drift past but never dissolving into their rain. Let people's anger pass by you without sticking. Listen to their stories without making them your own. When others try to draw you into their cycles of complaint and negativity, acknowledge them, but do not join the dance. This is not indifference, it is wisdom. It is the discipline of guarding your inner climate while storms rage outside. How do you practice this separation? It starts with awareness. Notice when you start to tense up in someone else's presence, when your mood darkens after absorbing their words, when your mind replays their conflicts as if they were your own. Pause, breathe, and name what is happening. This is not my storm. Remind yourself that you can empathize without internalizing, help without absorbing, care without carrying. Set gentle boundaries. Say no when you must. Step away when needed. Protect your energy as fiercely as you protect your time. You are not obligated to explain your peace. You do not owe the world your constant involvement. When you refuse to take on what is not yours, you are not abandoning anyone. You are preserving your ability to show up as your best self for the people and causes that truly matter. The strongest support you can offer is a stable presence, not a soul in turmoil. Over time, you will find a new strength growing within. You become less reactive, less pulled by emotional currents. You begin to distinguish between your genuine responsibilities and the endless invitations to chaos that surround you. Your mind clears, your energy returns, your life feels like your own again. Others may not always understand your distance, but you will understand its necessity. Remember, you cannot fix the world, but you can refuse to be undone by it. Build your sanctuary within and guard it well. Let others weather their storms. You stand as the mountain, silent and strong, shaped only by what you choose to allow in. In that refusal to inherit chaos, you find your peace. And in your peace, you find your real power. 4. Chains of the past. There is a weight you carry that no one else can see. a quiet shackle forged from every mistake, regret, and memory that still lives in your mind. You walk through your days with echoes from yesterday rattling at your heels. You replay conversations, relive your failures, nurse old wounds, and wonder what might have been if only you had chosen differently. Sometimes you try to bargain with the past, as if you could suffer enough to earn a new outcome. You believe, deep down, that if you hold on to these memories, you can somehow protect yourself from repeating them. But the truth is, you are only tightening the chain. The past is gone, but it can still imprison you if you let it. You cannot rewrite a single word of what has already happened. No amount of regret, guilt, or longing will turn back time or undo what is done. The past has no ears for your apologies, no hands to reach out and mend what's broken. Yet, you keep returning to it, haunted by things you wish you'd done or left undone, by words spoken or left unsaid. Why do you give your energy to a story that is finished? Every moment spent in sorrow over the past is a moment stolen from the present, a day darkened by a sun that has already set. There is a dangerous comfort in clinging to your regrets. They give you a reason to avoid new risks, to stay small, to shield yourself from more pain. You tell yourself, I am this way because of what happened. But as long as you wear the chains of the past, you cannot move freely into the future. You become defined by what once was, instead of what you could become. The pain you carry becomes your identity, and you mistake the heaviness for wisdom. True power is found in the willingness to let go. This does not mean forgetting or denying your history. It means facing it with honesty, extracting the lesson, but refusing to carry the burden. Every regret holds a message. Perhaps you were careless, or trusted the wrong person, or acted in anger. Listen to the lesson, but do not let it define your worth. You are not your mistakes. You are the person who survived them. You are the person who can choose differently now that you know more. How do you begin to let go? Start with forgiveness of others, but most of all, of yourself. Forgive yourself for not knowing what you couldn't have known, for being human, for falling short. Speak to yourself with the kindness you offer your closest friend. Say, that was me then. I am not bound to repeat it. Make a vow. The past will not be your jailer, only your teacher. Accept what cannot be changed. This is the doorway to freedom. The sun does not apologize for yesterday's storm. It simply rises again. You too can begin anew. When regret comes knocking, do not invite it in for another stay. Greet it at the door. Take what wisdom it offers and send it on its way. Then return to the life that is happening now. You will find that as you loosen your grip on the past, your hands become free to build something new. Your mind becomes lighter, your heart steadier, your present life richer. The chain grows weaker with every act of acceptance, until one day you notice it is gone. You cannot change what is behind you, but you can choose right now not to drag it any farther. Release the chains of the past. Step forward with what you have learned, unburdened and unafraid. The future waits for no one, but it welcomes those who arrive free. 5. Mirage of tomorrow. You spend your days standing at the edge of tomorrow, eyes locked on the shifting shapes of the future. Your mind is busy with what-ifs, inventing disasters that haven't arrived, replaying imaginary conversations, rehearsing for trials you may never face. You think that worrying is preparation, that forecasting every possible outcome is a form of strength. But the truth is cruel. While you're lost in the fog of tomorrow, the substance of your life slips quietly through your fingers. Anxious minds love to believe they are protecting themselves. You tell yourself, if I imagine the worst, I'll be ready for it. But more often, your worries drain your courage and rob you of peace, leaving you tired before the day has even begun. The future becomes a mirage, a moving, untouchable vision that commands your attention but refuses to take shape. You chase it for security, but it only multiplies your doubts. Ask yourself, how much of your life have you already sacrificed to fears that never came true? How many joyful moments have been poisoned by the dread of things that never happened? You are not alone. Everyone feels the pull of the future, but very few realize that the cost of living in tomorrow is the loss of today. The truth is, you cannot control the future. No one can. The path ahead is uncertain for every person who has ever lived. You may plan and prepare and still be surprised. You may worry and fret, and nothing you fear may come to pass. The weather changes, fortunes rise and fall, people disappoint, fate turns on a whisper. This is the way of the world. You cannot change it by thinking harder. So why waste your precious energy trying to hold the reins of tomorrow? Each time you worry over what might happen, you abandon what is happening. You lose sight of the choices, the actions, the opportunities that are actually in your hands. You surrender your power to a ghost, and the ghost gives you nothing in return. How do you break free from this endless rehearsal of disaster? It begins with discipline, a conscious decision to pull your attention back from the distant horizon and anchor it in the present moment. Practice returning your focus over and over to what you can do right now. When anxiety calls your mind away, pause, breathe, remind yourself, this moment is mine, the future is not. Choose to act, even if the step is small. Every present action, however humble, builds the foundation for a future you can face with confidence. Learn to trust your preparation, not your panic. Make your plans with care, then set them down and live today fully. You will never banish uncertainty, but you can become skillful at meeting it with calm. The person who can focus their mind on what is before them becomes powerful, not because they control fate, but because they do not allow fate to control their peace. There is a paradox here. The less you chase security in the future, the more secure you feel in the present. The less you fixate on what could go wrong, the more strength you gather to handle what actually does. The future cannot be tamed, but you can train your mind not to tremble before its shadow. When you learn to stop chasing the mirage of tomorrow, you discover the richness of today. Your mind grows clear. Your heart steadies. Life reveals its quiet gifts right here, in this hour. The best preparation for what's ahead is full attention to what's now. Stand in this moment unafraid. Let tomorrow come when it will. You'll meet it ready, because you learned to live, truly live, while you waited. 6. Beyond approval. Each morning, before your feet touch the floor, you are already stepping onto a stage. The world waits beyond your door, its eyes eager, its voices quick to judge. You walk through your day, aware, even if faintly, of the silent audience watching strangers, colleagues, relatives, neighbors. Their opinions float like a mist over everything you do. Sometimes you try to rise above it, but the truth is, most lives are spent in a quiet search for validation. You measure your choices against the shifting standards of others. You smile when you feel like frowning. You shrink when you want to stand tall. You chase accomplishments not because they matter to you, but because you hope they will earn you applause. With each small compromise, you lose a piece of yourself. Your ambitions blur into borrowed dreams. Your voice becomes an echo of the loudest voice in the room, and soon you cannot tell where their expectations end and your desires begin. Why do you surrender so easily to the verdicts of others? Perhaps it starts in childhood, with the need for love and safety. Approval feels like survival, but as you grow, the craving for acceptance can become a trap, a cage you build out of invisible bars. You start living for the next compliment, the next nod, the next well done. Your mood rises and falls with every comment, every glance. You become dependent on approval as if it were oxygen. And yet, no matter how hard you try, it never feels like enough. Someone always disapproves, criticizes, doubts. Ask yourself, what price do you pay to keep their favor? You trade your authenticity for acceptance, your peace for popularity, your time and energy for approval that can vanish with the changing wind. The person who lives for the opinions of others lives as a stranger in their own skin. Their confidence is built on sand, crumbling the moment the crowd turns. But you can step off the stage. You can stop living for the shifting tides of opinion and reclaim the ground beneath your own feet. True self-respect begins the moment you decide that your worth is not up for debate. The world's applause is fickle, but your own approval can be steady, unwavering, unshaken by the storms outside. How do you find this inner freedom? It begins with honesty. Acknowledge how much you've been shaped by others' expectations. Then, little by little, practice making choices for yourself. Do the right thing because it is right, not because it is rewarded. Speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. Stand tall in your convictions, even if you must stand alone. When you catch yourself scanning for approval, pause. Ask yourself, does this matter to me or only to them? Every act of courage, every moment of honesty, every refusal to betray yourself strengthens your core. Learn to sit quietly with your own company. Find satisfaction in your own progress, even if no one else notices. Build your life on your values, not their opinions. In the silence of self-acceptance, you become immune to the crowd's applause and unafraid of its criticism. In time, you will notice a shift. The opinions of others lose their power. You begin to recognize approval for what it is, a reflection, not the sun. You move through life with a quiet authority, steady and unmoved. The world still judges, still whispers, still shouts, but you are no longer performing. You are simply living, honest and whole. Your worth is not measured by the verdict of others. It is measured by your fidelity to your own truth. When you accept this, you gain a freedom that cannot be revoked. You step beyond approval, and you finally begin to live. 7. Currency of time. Time is the rarest currency you will ever possess, and yet it is the one most often spent carelessly. Every morning, you awaken with a finite balance, hours and minutes that will never be returned once they are gone. Yet, instead of guarding this treasure, you scatter it to the wind. Hours lost in idle conversation, energy poured into pointless arguments, precious mornings devoured by trivial distractions. You move through the day as if there will always be more time, as if you have the luxury to waste. But every tick of the clock quietly reminds you what is spent is gone for good. You see people everywhere trading away their days for the approval of others, for fleeting pleasures, for worries about what cannot be controlled. You may have done the same, believing there will always be a better time to focus, to improve, to build something lasting. But in truth, each day arrives only once, and the way you spend it shapes the entire course of your life. Ask yourself, where does your time go? How many hours have you given to things that left you no better, no wiser, no closer to the life you want? How often do you feel busy, yet empty at the end of the day, with nothing to show for your effort? The reality is harsh, but liberating time is not stolen from you by the world. It is surrendered by your own choices. Why do you spend so much time on what you cannot reclaim? Sometimes it is fear, a reluctance to face your own ambitions, a habit of hiding in distractions rather than confronting what matters. Sometimes it is a lack of clarity, a fog of urgency and noise that keeps you running in circles, never pausing to ask what is truly important. And sometimes it is a simple lack of discipline, letting other people's priorities invade your calendar. Their chaos devour your peace. But you have the power to change. The first step is to become a vigilant guardian of your time. Each morning, before the world's demands begin, ask yourself, what do I value? What actions, if taken today, would move me closer to the person I wish to become? Write them down. Defend those hours as fiercely as you would defend your most precious possession, because they are. Learn to say no. Let lesser concerns, petty arguments, and idle distractions starve for your attention. You do not owe your time to every invitation or every interruption. When you fill your calendar only with actions that serve your purpose, your growth, your discipline, your legacy, you reclaim the dignity that belongs to a life well lived. Prioritize with courage. Place the essential above the urgent. Sometimes, what truly matters does not shout for your attention. It waits quietly to be chosen. Give your best energy to your highest values and let the rest fall away. This is not selfishness. It is wisdom. It is the discipline of those who know their days are numbered and refuse to waste them. When you spend your time only on what you can influence, your life becomes a testament to your priorities. The busy person is not always the accomplished one. The wise person is not always the busiest, but their hours are never wasted. They treat each day as a sacred trust, one they will not betray with regret or distraction. In the end, time is the currency that writes your story. Waste it, and your life is a blur of forgotten days. Invest it wisely, and each hour becomes a building block in the legacy only you can create. Guard your time. Spend it on purpose. You only get one account, and its balance is shrinking every day. 8. Hunger to be right. There is a hunger within you that is rarely spoken about, yet it shapes more of your life than you realize. The hunger to be right. You feel it in the heat of an argument, in the quick reply you craft to prove your point, in the quiet satisfaction that rises when someone finally admits you were correct. It seems harmless on the surface, even virtuous, as if truth must always be defended at all costs. But beneath this hunger lies a trap. The more you feed it, the emptier you become. Think about the energy you spend trying to win debates, correct others, or claim victory in conversations that lead nowhere. You can lose hours, days, even years, chasing this elusive satisfaction, trying to convert every doubter, silence every critic, outlast every opposition. Each time you cling to the need to be right, you set yourself against the world, turning every disagreement into a battlefield, every conversation into a contest. What have you truly gained when you win? Is your life richer, your mind clearer, your heart lighter? Or have you simply traded peace for the fleeting taste of triumph? The truth is, the need to be right devours your peace. It keeps you in constant conflict, forever bracing for the next challenge, the next skeptic, the next opportunity to prove yourself. You rehearse arguments in your mind, replay old disputes, and carry the residue of resentment long after the words have faded. In the end, being right does not guarantee happiness. It often ensures the opposite. It isolates you from others, blinds you to new perspectives, and traps you in a pattern of defensiveness. Why do you cling to this hunger? At its root, it is fear, the fear of being overlooked, misunderstood, or dismissed. You believe that if you are right, you are strong. If you are wrong, you are weak. But real strength has nothing to do with winning debates. It is found in the calm confidence that does not require validation from others. The wisest people you will ever meet are not the loudest or the most argumentative. They are the ones who have learned to let go of the compulsion to win. How do you loosen the grip of this need? Begin by noticing how quickly you rush to defend yourself. When disagreement arises, pause. Ask yourself, does this matter? Is this worth my peace? What am I really defending, my ego or the truth? Most conflicts are not about truth, but about pride. Practice listening more than you speak. Allow others to hold their opinions even when you disagree. Remember that their understanding is shaped by their own experiences, just as yours is. You can respect a person without agreeing with their perspective. It takes discipline to choose peace over pride. You do not have to answer every accusation or win every argument. You do not need to correct every mistake or clarify every misunderstanding. Sometimes the greatest wisdom is in silence, in letting others have the last word, in stepping away without needing to prove yourself. In this, you find your strength not in being right, but in being at peace. With time, you will notice a shift within. You feel lighter, less reactive, more open. Relationships improve because you no longer treat every conversation as a contest. Your mind becomes clearer, no longer cluttered by rehearsed debates or lingering resentments. You discover that the world keeps turning whether you win or lose an argument, and your worth was never measured by your ability to convince others. Let go of the hunger to be right. Hold your beliefs with humility, speak your truth with grace, and let peace be the measure of your victory. In doing so, you gain something far greater than being right. You gain yourself. 9. Mind as fortress. Storms will come. They arrive without warning. Disappointments, betrayals, losses, insults, or challenges that threaten the very core of your spirit. You cannot predict when the sky will darken, nor can you wish away the winds that life sends your way. This is not a flaw in the world. It is the way of things. Most people spend their lives desperately trying to keep the storms at bay, chasing after comfort, hoping for perfect weather, believing that happiness can be found only when all is calm. But this search is futile. The world will never bend itself to your desire for peace. The only security you will ever know is the security you build within. The discipline of your mind is the only true weapon against the chaos that waits outside your door. When you strengthen your mind, you become a fortress, resilient, steadfast, able to endure whatever the world brings. This is not a gift, but a practice. It is not the luck of the fortunate, but the habit of the wise. How do you build this fortress? It begins in the quiet moments before trouble arrives. You prepare in advance not because you expect to avoid hardship, but because you know you will face it. Each morning, make time for reflection. Ask yourself, who do I want to be when adversity comes? What values will I hold to, even when it is difficult? Picture yourself standing firm while the world wavers. This simple act of intention sets the first stone. Discipline grows through the small choices you make every day. Practice gratitude, even when little seems worthy of thanks. Practice patience, especially when irritation rises. Build habits that align with your principles. Wake early, keep your promises, care for your health, speak honestly. Each disciplined act is a brick added to your fortress wall. Do not wait until crisis strikes to begin. The undisciplined mind is easily overwhelmed. It runs wild at the first sign of trouble, jumping from fear to anger to despair. It is blown about by every gust, crumbling at the first blow. But the disciplined mind, trained in calm and consistency, becomes stronger with each test. When adversity arrives, you are not surprised. You meet it with readiness, with a mind that does not panic but assesses, adapts, endures. It is not that you will never feel fear, sorrow, or frustration. You will, but discipline gives you the power to witness these emotions without letting them dictate your actions. You become capable of choosing your response instead of surrendering to impulse. You learn to ask, what is within my control? And to let the rest pass by like rain against stone. How do you reinforce your inner walls? Reflect regularly on your values. Remind yourself that external chaos is not a command to lose your center. Practice rituals of stillness, deep breaths when anger rises, moments of silence before you speak, pauses to reconsider your choices. In the quiet, you fortify your resolve. Over time, this training reveals its reward. You find that while others are swept away by circumstance, you remain standing. You feel the winds, but they do not move you. The storm rages, but you hold your ground. People around you may wonder at your calm, your ability to endure. They may even seek shelter in your presence. But you know this strength is not magic, it is built, brick by brick, by your daily discipline. In the end, the world belongs to those who rule themselves. Build your mind as a fortress, and you will not only survive the storm, you will emerge from it wiser, steadier, and ready for whatever dawn follows the darkness. 10. Power of acceptance. You fight reality more often than you realize. A plan falls apart, and anger swells in your chest. A friend lets you down, and resentment poisons your thoughts. Circumstances shift against your will, and you resist with all your might, hoping force of will can bend the world to fit your wishes. Yet, the harder you push against what is, the heavier your burden grows. You become entangled in frustration, exhausted by struggle, convinced that happiness lies just beyond the next victory over reality. But the truth is simpler and far more difficult to accept. Suffering multiplies when you resist what is. Imagine your life as a river. The current moves with or without your permission. You can flail and thrash, trying to swim against it, but all you achieve is exhaustion and despair. Or you can learn to float, to accept the direction of the water, and use your energy to guide yourself where you can without fighting the entire flow. Life will bring pain, disappointment, and loss, whether you resist it or not. Acceptance is not defeat. It is the wisdom to stop multiplying your pain by insisting that things should be different. Why do you resist reality? Partly, it's pride, the belief that your plans, your expectations, your sense of justice should prevail over the world. Partly, it's fear, the fear that if you surrender, you will be overwhelmed, helpless, at the mercy of forces beyond your control. But what you fear most is not the event itself, it is the feeling of being powerless. Yet in accepting what you cannot change, you discover the very power you seek. Acceptance does not mean approval. It does not mean you like the setback, the betrayal, the loss. It means you see things as they are, without illusion or denial. You stop wasting energy cursing the rain and start asking what you can do now that it's falling. You begin to act, not react. The instant you stop arguing with reality, you reclaim energy that was trapped in struggle. You free yourself to respond with clarity, instead of flailing in protest. How do you practice acceptance? It begins in your thoughts. Notice each time you find yourself thinking, this shouldn't be happening, or it's not fair. Catch yourself and ask, what is true right now? Name the facts without drama or exaggeration. Then ask, what is within my control? This question returns you to yourself, to the only place where your power truly resides. Acceptance is not passive. It is not giving up. It is choosing to face reality, however harsh, and to act from a place of truth, not fantasy. When you accept, you become adaptable. You bend, but you do not break. You adjust your plans, recalibrate your hopes, and move forward with whatever remains. This is resilience, the quiet strength that emerges when you stop wasting your energy on what cannot be undone. You will find, as you practice, that peace replaces bitterness. The world's chaos no longer dictates your mood. You grieve losses, but you do not let them anchor you in the past. You feel pain, but you do not turn it into endless suffering. You become skilled at letting go of old stories, unmet expectations, impossible standards. The freedom you have been seeking is found not in controlling reality, but in aligning yourself with it. As you master acceptance, suffering loses its teeth. You meet each moment with calm, ready to shape what you can and surrender the rest. Stop resisting. begin living. When you learn to embrace what is, you unlock the power to change what matters most yourself. And that is the first step toward real strength, real happiness, and real peace. 11. Letting go of resentment. Resentment is a poison that drips slowly into your spirit, drop by drop, long after the original wound has healed. It may begin with a single slight, a friend's betrayal, a colleague's injustice, a loved one's broken promise. The pain is real, and so is the injustice. But when you keep replaying the story, nursing the grievance, and holding the hurt close, the injury becomes a part of you. You chain yourself to old pain and carry it everywhere you go, hoping, perhaps unconsciously, that holding on will bring some form of justice or relief. Yet, resentment only ever punishes one person, you. Ask yourself honestly, what has resentment ever brought you? Has it fixed the past, changed the person who wronged you, or brought you closer to peace? Or has it simply kept the wound fresh, ensuring that you suffer long after the event itself has passed? Holding on to resentment is like picking up a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. The only one burned is you. With every angry memory you replay, with every bitter thought you allow, you keep yourself in the prison of the past. Why is it so hard to let go? Sometimes resentment feels like power. It's a way to refuse forgiveness, to keep a shield raised against further harm. You may believe that by remembering, by hurting, you stay strong. But true strength is not found in holding on to pain. It is found in the courage to release it. Resentment weighs you down, colors your perception of the present, and clouds your ability to see good in the world. It turns you inward, closing you off from joy, connection, and growth. Letting go of resentment is not about forgetting the wrong or excusing the person who hurt you. It is not about pretending that pain didn't matter or that betrayal was acceptable. It is about choosing your own freedom over your attachment to suffering. It is a decision to no longer allow the past to define your mood, your health, or your direction. How do you begin to release resentment? Start by recognizing when it rises. Notice how your body tenses, how your mind replays the scene, how anger or sorrow floods your thoughts. Instead of pushing it away or feeding it, sit with it for a moment. Name it resentment. See it clearly for what it is, a visitor, not a ruler. Ask yourself, does holding on serve me, or does it shackle me to pain that no longer belongs in my life? Practice forgiveness, not for their sake, but for your own. Forgiveness is a release, a conscious decision to loosen your grip on the past. You may never receive an apology. The person who wronged you may never change or even remember what they did. Forgiveness does not require their participation. It is an act of self-liberation, a way to reclaim your peace and reclaim the present moment. This will not happen overnight. Old wounds reopen easily, and resentment is persistent. But each time you let go, even a little, you become lighter. Each time you refuse to dwell on the past, you reclaim a piece of your spirit. Over time, you find that the past loses its grip, and you are free to move forward, unburdened and whole. Letting go of resentment is the path to peace. You deserve to live unchained by old injuries, free to experience life as it unfolds now. Release the poison. Forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve freedom. Only then will you discover the true strength and clarity that were waiting beneath your pain all along. 12. Beyond comfort. Comfort is one of the most seductive forces you will ever encounter. It whispers promises of ease, safety, and warmth, convincing you that happiness is found in what feels good and familiar. You slip into routines that dull the edges of your ambition. You choose the path of least resistance, and day by day, your hunger for more becomes a faint echo, almost forgotten. The world is filled with soft places, entertainment to distract you, conveniences to spare you effort, and excuses to protect you from discomfort. It is easy to believe that if you simply avoid pain and chase after comfort, you will be content. But comfort is a subtle enemy. It rarely attacks directly. Instead, it quietly erodes your resolve. Growth never occurs where things are easy. Strength is never forged in the warmth of a sheltered room. The greatest lessons, the most profound changes, happen when you are forced to confront what is hard, when you struggle, endure, and rise despite adversity. Every time you shrink away from difficulty, you trade a piece of your potential for a fleeting sense of relief. The cost of endless comfort is the slow decay of your courage, your discipline, and your vision. Why is it so hard to leave your comfort zone? It is because discomfort feels like a threat. Your mind is wired to protect you from pain. Fear tells you that risk will end in failure, that effort will only bring exhaustion, that challenge will expose your weaknesses. So you stay where it is safe, even as the borders of your world grow smaller. You rationalize, I will try when I feel ready, I will wait for the right moment, I will grow when life gets easier, but that moment never comes. Readiness is not born in comfort, it is built in challenge. How do you break free from this trap? Start by embracing discomfort as a teacher, not an enemy. Notice when you begin to settle, when your days grow predictable and your spirit restless. Choose on purpose to do what is difficult. Take the stairs when you want the elevator. Speak up when you want to remain silent. Attempt what scares you instead of hiding behind excuses. Each time you lean into discomfort, you prove to yourself that you can survive it, and each victory, no matter how small, adds to your strength. Set challenges for yourself. Even when there is no urgent need, wake early. Commit to discipline. Set goals that stretch you, not just ones you know you can reach. Welcome failure as part of the process, not a reason to quit. The discomfort you endure today becomes the confidence you rely on tomorrow. It is in the difficult moments when you want to quit, but continue anyway, that your character is shaped. Over time, you will notice a profound shift. You become less afraid of struggle, more willing to step into the unknown. The setbacks that once crushed you now teach you. The pain that once made you shrink now forges resilience. You realize that the greatest comfort comes not from avoiding hardship, but from knowing you can face it and prevail. The person who hungers for comfort never finds greatness. The one who hungers for growth, who is willing to be uncomfortable, becomes unstoppable. The world will always offer you easy roads and soft landings, but the summit, the real view, can only be reached by climbing the steepest path. Do not settle. Seek out the challenge. Embrace discomfort. In that choice, you will discover the real source of your strength, your courage, and your potential. The person you are meant to become is waiting just beyond your comfort zone. Take the step and meet them there. 13. Shadow of jealousy. There is a shadow that slips into your mind when you see someone else succeed, a colleague earning praise, a friend finding love, a stranger living the life you secretly desire. It arrives quietly, disguised as annoyance, impatience, or that sudden sinking in your chest. This shadow is jealousy. It doesn't matter how much you pretend otherwise. You recognize its sting. You wonder, why not me? You measure your life against theirs, and suddenly what you have seems smaller, duller, not enough. Jealousy is a mirror that reflects not their triumphs, but your own neglected potential. Jealousy is often misunderstood. You tell yourself that it is ugly, a flaw to be hidden, a sign that you are ungrateful. You try to silence it, push it down, pretend it does not exist. But the truth is, jealousy is not your enemy, it is a messenger. It points directly to the dreams you have buried, the risks you have avoided, the talents you have left unclaimed. It stirs when you see in others what you secretly wish to become. Why does another person's happiness unsettle you? It is because, deep down, you fear you are wasting your own gifts. You see them daring, growing, winning, and you realize you have stood still. You tell yourself stories to soothe the ache. They were lucky. They had help. It's easier for them. But these stories are chains that bind you to stagnation. Jealousy's true message is not they have more, but you could be more. How do you transform jealousy from poison to fuel? First, acknowledge it without shame. When envy arises, do not turn away. Look it in the eye. Ask, what desire in me has been neglected? Use the discomfort as a guide. What do you long to do, to learn, to become? Let jealousy show you where your own attention is needed. Their achievement is not your loss. It is a signpost pointing to your own unlived life. Next, turn your gaze from their results to your own habits. What do they do that you do not? What discipline, effort, or sacrifice led to their progress? Instead of resenting their journey, study it. If you admire their strength, develop your own. If you desire their confidence, practice your own. If you want their success, commit to your own path. Every minute you spend watching them is a minute lost from building yourself. Jealousy thrives in comparison and dies in creation. Whenever you catch yourself envying, immediately take action. Write your goals, invest in your work, challenge yourself to do one thing today that brings you closer to who you want to be. The antidote to envy is movement. As you progress, even in the smallest way, jealousy loses its grip. You realize there is room for all to rise, that another's light does not diminish your own. Over time, you will notice a profound shift. What once made you bitter now inspires you. What once felt like a wound becomes a window into possibility. You stop counting the blessings of others and start multiplying your own. The victories of those around you no longer feel threatening. Instead, they become proof that growth is possible, that you are capable of more. Remember, jealousy is only a shadow when you stand still. When you move, create, and invest in your own journey, the shadow fades. Your attention belongs on your own path, your own potential. Let the success of others awaken your hunger, not your bitterness. Build your life so that one day someone else's shadow is not cast over you, but is illuminated by the light you found within yourself. 14. Tide of opinions. Every day you walk through a sea of opinions. They come at you from all sides: family, friends, co-workers, strangers on the street, voices from screens and pages and passing conversations. Approval and criticism ride the same current, always shifting, always threatening to sweep you away. Sometimes you chase after their praise, hungry for a sense of belonging. Other times, you flinch at their judgment, shrinking your dreams and softening your voice to avoid their disapproval. But the truth is simple. The opinions of the crowd are a tide, changing with the moon, never staying still for long. If you tether your self-worth to their approval, you are destined to drift, forever searching for solid ground. Why do the judgments of others matter so much? It begins with an ancient longing to belong, to be safe, to be accepted. As children, we learned that approval brought love and safety. As adults, this need grows more complex. You may not realize it, but much of your energy is spent performing for invisible audiences, measuring your choices against standards that shift from one moment to the next. You start to lose sight of your own voice. Your goals, your values, your ambitions begin to blur until you can't distinguish which are truly yours and which were borrowed just to fit in. But what happens when you live for the crowd? You become restless and uncertain, because the crowd itself is restless and uncertain. One day, they cheer you. The next, they turn away. Their memories are short, their affections fickle. When you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, not even yourself. You become exhausted, torn between conflicting expectations, doubting your every step. You must recognize this tide for what it is, a force that cannot be controlled or appeased. The wisest course is to step out of its pull, to build your foundation on something far more stable, your own principles. This does not mean you ignore the world or become indifferent to the feelings of others. It means you set your own direction, guided by an inner compass that does not waver with the crowd's approval or rejection. How do you cultivate this inner stability? Begin in solitude. Set aside time to listen to yourself. Ask, what truly matters to me? What values do I stand for, even when no one else notices? Write them down. Reflect on them often. Make decisions with these principles in mind, not because you expect applause, but because you know they are right. You will find that as you become anchored in your own convictions, the noise of the world grows quieter. Criticism still stings, but it no longer shatters you. Praise feels good, but it does not inflate you. You stand upright, calm in the knowledge that your worth does not rise and fall with the opinions of others. It takes courage to live this way. You may lose some approval, disappoint some expectations, or walk alone at times. But what you gain is far greater, a sense of self that cannot be bought, shaken, or stolen. When you act with integrity, guided by your own truth, you become trustworthy to yourself and, in time, to others. The respect you earn is real, not because it was demanded, but because it was deserved. Let the world's opinions flow around you like the tide. Notice them, but do not let them erode your foundation. Set your feet on solid ground, your own ground. In doing so, you claim a peace and strength that the crowd will never understand, but that will sustain you through every storm. The tide of opinions will never settle, but you can choose to be unmovable. In the end, it is your own approval that shapes your life. Stand firm in it, and you will never be swept away. 15. Illusion of control. You spend much of your life building careful plans, crafting routines, and imagining futures where everything unfolds exactly as you desire. There is a deep comfort in believing you can steer the world, bend circumstances to your will, and keep chaos at bay with enough effort, preparation, or caution. But reality is rarely so obedient. You know this truth, though you resist it. The universe does not answer to your command. The future, no matter how skillfully you plot, remains an untamed animal. Still, the illusion of control is hard to abandon. You want certainty. You want guarantees that your work will be rewarded, that your loved ones will remain safe, that the ground beneath you will never shift. So you fill your days with planning, worrying, rehearsing every possible scenario. You work late, double-check details, and think that if you just try hard enough, nothing will go wrong. But for all your efforts, life remains unpredictable. Accidents happen, people change, markets crash, storms arrive without warning. This truth stings because it exposes your vulnerability. It reminds you that, beneath all your striving, you are human subject to forces larger than yourself. Yet there is a strange freedom waiting on the other side of this truth if you dare to embrace it. When you accept the limits of your control, you stop wasting energy fighting what cannot be mastered, and you begin to focus on what truly belongs to you. Ask yourself, what is actually in your hands? You cannot control other people's actions or the timing of every opportunity. You cannot command perfect health or protect yourself from every twist of fate. But you can always govern your response. You can shape your effort, your discipline, your mindset. You can meet each challenge with resilience, adaptability, and grace. In the end, these are the only tools that matter, and they are more powerful than you realize. How do you practice letting go of control? It begins with honesty. Notice how often you tense up when things deviate from your plans. Notice the anxiety that wells up when life refuses to cooperate. Rather than fighting reality, pause and acknowledge it. This is not what I wanted, but this is what is. Breathe deeply and ask yourself, what can I influence right now? Redirect your focus there and release the rest. Adaptability is the hallmark of those who thrive, not those who cling. Instead of rigidly demanding that life match your expectations, develop the habit of pivoting with what comes. When your plans fall apart, do not collapse with them. Stand, dust yourself off, and ask, how can I use this? What can I learn from this moment? Every setback holds a lesson. Every loss a new beginning. If you refuse to be paralyzed by disappointment, letting go of the illusion of control does not mean surrendering to helplessness. It means standing firmly in reality and choosing action where action is possible. It means meeting life on its own terms, ready to respond, willing to change, unbroken by what you cannot shape. With time, you'll notice a quiet strength growing within you. You will stop feeling betrayed by surprise, stop dreading what you cannot foresee. The anxiety of endless planning will fade, replaced by a deep trust in your own resourcefulness. You will find freedom not in having power over every circumstance, but in your unshakable confidence to meet whatever arises. Remember, control over circumstance is an illusion, but self-mastery is real. Trade anxiety for adaptability. Trade rigidity for resilience. Trade your illusion for the power that endures, the ability to respond with courage no matter what comes your way. In that, you will discover a peace that cannot be disturbed, even when the world refuses to obey. 16. Facing fear. Fear is a silent architect, building invisible walls around your life. It often appears quietly, shaping your choices long before you even realize it is there. Sometimes fear is loud, a racing heart, a sleepless night, a mind spiraling with worst-case scenarios. But more often, fear works in subtle ways. Hesitation to speak your mind, the instinct to shrink back from challenge, the quiet voice that says, not yet, not you, not possible. You find yourself delaying dreams, refusing risks, choosing the familiar over the unknown. Each time you listen, the walls grow higher, the world smaller, your spirit dimmer. Why is fear so powerful? It promises safety, but what it really offers is limitation. Fear is the story your mind tells to protect you from pain, embarrassment, failure, rejection, loss. But protection comes at a price. The loss of possibility, of growth, of life's richness. The more you run from fear, the more it shapes you. Your life becomes a series of careful negotiations with the world, always seeking guarantees, always avoiding the edge. Yet nothing meaningful is built inside the circle of comfort. Ask yourself, how often has fear actually saved you? And how often has it robbed you? How many times have you looked back and regretted not what you tried and failed, but what you never dared at all? The truth is, courage and fear are not opposites. They are companions. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. How do you begin to face fear? Start by naming it. Bring it out of the shadows and into the light. When anxiety rises, don't turn away. Pause and ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of? Sometimes the act of naming fear weakens its hold, revealing it as smaller than you imagined. Then, instead of recoiling, take one small step toward it. Make the call. Speak the truth. Try the thing you've avoided. Courage is built in these moments, not in grand gestures, but in small acts of defiance against the voice that says you cannot. Train yourself to see fear as a signal, not a stop sign. Fear often points toward growth. When you feel it, ask, what would I gain if I moved through this? Even if the outcome is uncertain, The act of facing fear itself is victory. Over time, your comfort zone expands. What once felt impossible becomes ordinary. The walls recede. The world opens. Your confidence grows not because you never feel fear, but because you learn you can act in spite of it. Accept that discomfort is part of any worthwhile journey. Growth happens at the edge, where certainty gives way to risk. The most successful people you admire are not fearless, they are relentless. They choose not to let fear dictate the terms of their life. You can do the same. Celebrate your victories, no matter how small. Every time you act in the presence of fear, acknowledge your strength. Let it become proof that you are capable of more than you imagined. The more you do this, the less persuasive fear becomes. One day, you will look back and realize that the walls you once thought unbreakable were only shadows. In the end, facing fear is not about becoming immune to it, but about refusing to be ruled by it. It is about claiming your right to live fully, to try, to fail, to rise again. The freedom you seek is not found in a life without fear, but in a life where you move forward anyway. Stand at the edge, feel the tremor, then take the step. That is how you grow. That is how you begin to truly live. 17. Taming desire. Desire is a powerful current running through your life. It fuels ambition, inspires creativity, and gives shape to your dreams. Without desire, you would remain stagnant, content with the bare minimum. But like a river in flood, unchecked desire can sweep you away, drowning your peace, clouding your judgment, chaining you to a relentless cycle of craving and disappointment. You long for more success, more recognition, more love, more security. You imagine that if only you could satisfy these wants, you would finally find happiness. Yet each desire fulfilled gives birth to the next, and the chase never ends. Desire itself is not your enemy. It is the attachment to outcomes, the obsession with results, that turns healthy longing into a heavy chain. When you let desire rule you, your focus narrows. You become fixated on what you lack, what you hope to gain, and what stands in your way. You measure your worth by achievements, your days by milestones reached, your value by the approval of others. Life becomes a contest, a constant measurement of how far you still have to go, rather than an appreciation of how far you have come. Why is desire so difficult to manage? Because it often disguises itself as purpose. You tell yourself, when I get this, I'll be happy. When I achieve that, I'll finally rest. But happiness that depends on circumstances is fragile and fleeting. The finish line keeps moving, and the joy you chase becomes a mirage. You wake each morning already behind, already longing, already dissatisfied. Your peace is always just out of reach. How do you tame desire without killing your drive? Begin by shifting your focus from outcomes to effort. Take pride not in what you collect, but in what you give. Commit to the process, not the prize. When you do the work for its own sake, your mind quiets. The pressure fades. The joy of creation, learning, and progress becomes its own reward. You cannot control all results, but you can control the honesty and diligence of your action. Practice gratitude. Remind yourself daily of what you already have, of the progress you have made. Desire thrives on comparison and scarcity. Gratitude flourishes in presence and abundance. Whenever you catch yourself spiraling into longing, pause and list your blessings. Let contentment anchor you, even as you reach for more. Learn to let go of what you cannot force. Ambition is noble, but obsession is a prison. When setbacks come, when results delay, do not let frustration consume you. Accept what is, adjust your course, and try again with a clear heart. Refuse to let unmet desires poison your attitude or relationships. Trust that the right opportunities will find you when you remain disciplined and true to your values. The strongest people you know are not those without desire, but those who master it. They pursue greatness, but they are not defined by gain or loss. They strive, but they are never desperate. They know when to push and when to let go, when to act and when to wait. Their peace is not dependent on victory, but on their ability to respond with wisdom, regardless of the outcome. In the end, taming desire is an act of liberation. You are no longer dragged by longing or blinded by obsession. You live with purpose, not addiction. You work with joy, not anxiety. You become the guide, not the captive, of your desires. The world will always offer something more, something new. Let desire propel you forward, but never let it rule your heart. Only then do you become free. Only then do you experience the fullness of your own life. 18. Mastering impulse. Impulse is the sly saboteur that waits within your own mind. It is the urge to lash out in anger, the itch to indulge in temptation, the reckless decision made in a heartbeat that leaves you with regret long after the moment has passed. Impulse acts fast, leaping over thought and trampling intention. It promises relief, excitement, release, but what it delivers is almost always disappointment, chaos, or shame. When you live at the mercy of your impulses, your days become a series of reactions, not choices. You wake each morning with the hope of control, only to watch your energy scattered by whims and distractions. Think of how quickly an unguarded word can shatter trust, or how a careless click can waste hours. You start the day with good intentions, but one impulsive act, a sharp reply, a skipped responsibility, a reckless purchase can undo the discipline you have worked hard to build. Over time, if left unchecked, impulse erodes your confidence. You begin to doubt your own word. You feel powerless, trapped in a loop of making the same mistakes again and again. Why is impulse so difficult to master? It feels urgent, almost necessary. The world urges you to react, to gratify every desire at once, to answer every slight and chase every craving. Advertisements, social media, and even your own thoughts push you toward immediate satisfaction. Yet what comes quickly often leaves just as quickly, leaving behind only the emptiness of a moment wasted or a bridge burned. But you are not fated to live at the mercy of impulse. The ability to pause before action, to insert a space between feeling and response, is the foundation of true self-mastery. How do you cultivate this discipline? It begins with awareness. Notice your urges as they rise. Instead of blindly obeying every desire, treat your impulses like unruly children. Acknowledge them, but do not hand them the keys. Practice the pause. When you feel the rush to react, stop. Count to 10. Take a slow breath. Ask yourself, will this action bring me closer to the life I want or further away? Will I be proud of this choice tomorrow? The few seconds you spend in reflection can save you hours, days, or even years of regret. This space you create between thought and action is where your freedom lies. Build habits that reinforce your intentions. Set routines for your mornings and evenings, so you begin and end your days with structure. Limit the temptations in your environment. Clear away distractions. When you make the right choice easier and the wrong choice harder, you set yourself up for success. Surround yourself with reminders of your values, a note on your desk, a phrase you repeat, a friend who holds you accountable. Forgive yourself when you falter. No one masters impulse overnight. Each mistake is a lesson, each slip an opportunity to learn. When you catch yourself acting impulsively, reflect on what triggered you. What were you feeling? What story were you telling yourself? Over time, this curiosity turns guilt into growth. As your discipline grows, so does your power. You become less reactive, less at the mercy of moods and circumstances. People notice your calm, your steadiness, your ability to make choices that align with your deeper goals. You gain confidence not because you never feel temptation, but because you trust yourself to act with intention, not just emotion. In mastering impulse, you claim the highest form of freedom, self-governance. You stop being a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Instead, you become the author of your actions, the architect of your days. In that mastery, you find peace, pride, and the quiet certainty that your life belongs to you, one thoughtful choice at a time. 19. Silencing doubt. Doubt is the quiet thief in your mind, stealing your victories before you ever get the chance to claim them. It arrives disguised as caution, disguised as realism, even as humility. But more often than not, it is simply fear wearing a clever mask. Doubt whispers that you are not ready, that your dreams are too big, that your gifts are too small. It tells you, maybe someone like you isn't meant for this. And you listen, believing the voice because it is so persistent, so familiar, so reasonable. Yet, each time you obey it, a part of your courage fades. Doubt flourishes in the gaps between your intentions and your actions. You set goals, make promises, picture a brighter future, but when the moment comes to step forward, doubt begins its litany of questions. What if you fail? What if you embarrass yourself? What if you are rejected? The world's uncertainty amplifies your inner uncertainty, and soon you find yourself stuck in endless rehearsal, paralyzed before the starting line. You watch others leap ahead, and the gap between you and your dreams widens until it feels unbridgeable. But here is the truth. No one is born free from doubt. Everyone who has ever built something meaningful, every artist, leader, entrepreneur, parent, has met this adversary. The difference is not that the strong are without doubt, but that they have learned not to let it command them. Doubt is a shadow, not a wall. It cannot stop you unless you choose to stop for it. Why does doubt feel so powerful? It is because your mind is built to protect you. It tries to keep you safe by avoiding risk, pain, and failure. Yet, the mind's protection can become a prison if you let it. You begin to settle for comfort instead of growth, safety instead of meaning. Your potential becomes a theory, never tested, never proven. How do you silence doubt and reclaim your authority? You do not wait for confidence to magically appear. Confidence is built, brick by brick, through action. The smallest act is more powerful than the grandest intention. Each time you act in spite of doubt, you gather evidence. I can do this. With each small win, your belief in yourself grows stronger than your fear. Turn your attention from the imagined failures to the work itself. Get out of your head and into your life. Perfection is a mirage. Progress is real. Allow yourself to learn as you go, to stumble, to adjust. No one expects you to be flawless, least of all the people who admire your courage to begin. Surround yourself with reminders of your past resilience. Remember the moments you overcame, the challenges you survived, the skills you built when you thought you were not enough. These are your real credentials, proof that doubt has been wrong about you before and will be again. When doubt arises, and it always will acknowledge it, don't waste energy fighting it or pretending it isn't there. Thank your mind for its concern, then get on with the work. Let action be your answer. You silence the thief by refusing to hand it your keys. Over time, you will discover a quiet confidence rooted not in bravado but in truth. You know who you are because you have tested yourself and you have survived. Doubt will still knock, but it will find the door locked. You will move forward anyway. Remember, your life is built in the space between doubt and action. Each step forward turns the volume down on hesitation and turns the light up on your own capability. Keep moving and let doubt fall behind. Your future is waiting beyond the reach of fear, on the other side of the next bold step. 20. The art of detachment. You are born into this world with nothing, and you will leave it the same way. In between, you gather possessions, titles, relationships, experiences, and dreams. You grip tightly to what you believe is yours, your work, your reputation, your loved ones, even your suffering. But life, by its nature, is a river in constant motion. Everything you hold is borrowed, never truly owned. The more fiercely you clutch to things, the more you suffer when the river inevitably takes them away. Detachment is often misunderstood. People mistake it for coldness, indifference, or a lack of caring. But true detachment is not the absence of love or ambition, it is the presence of wisdom. It is the understanding that your happiness and peace cannot be chained to things you cannot keep, outcomes you cannot control, or people who must one day walk their own path. Detachment is the art of loving, working, and living fully while remaining free inside, no matter what happens outside. Why is detachment so difficult? Because attachment feels natural. You invest your heart and soul into your goals, your relationships, your identity. You measure your worth by what you have, achieve, or are recognized for. Yet life is always reminding you jobs end, friendships change, fortunes shift, health declines. When you build your happiness on things that change, your life becomes a roller coaster of hope and loss, joy and fear. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you learn to care deeply without losing yourself. You pour your energy into your work, your relationships, your growth, but you do not let your inner state rise and fall with every change of fortune. You celebrate success, but do not cling to it. You love with all your heart, but do not collapse when love changes form. You accept loss, not with numbness, but with grace, knowing that nothing in this world is truly yours to keep forever. How do you practice the art of detachment? Begin by becoming aware of where your attachments lie. Notice where you feel anxious, threatened, or desperate to hold on. Ask yourself, is my peace dependent on this? Whenever you find yourself gripped by fear of loss or craving for gain, pause. Breathe deeply and gently remind yourself, I can love, work, and strive, but my happiness is not for sale. Focus on what you can control, your effort, your attitude, your integrity. Accept the rest as outside your domain. Do your best and let go of the outcome. When challenges come, do not fight against reality, but meet it with openness. When something precious leaves your life, allow yourself to grieve, then release your grip. Trust that you will find meaning, growth, and new joys ahead. Cultivate gratitude for what is here now. Instead of mourning what is missing or fearing what may change, savor the richness of this moment. The more you appreciate what you have, the less desperate you become to keep it at all costs. Over time, detachment becomes not a shield, but a source of great strength. You become steady in storms, generous in success, resilient in loss. Others may wonder at your calm, but you know it comes from a deep understanding. Everything comes and goes, but you remain. You are not defined by what you possess or what you lose, but by how you live in the presence of both. The art of detachment is the highest freedom. It is not escape, it is mastery. It is the confidence to love, strive, and create, while standing unshaken when life changes course. In detachment, you do not abandon the world. You gain the power to truly embrace it, knowing that your peace does not depend on its changing tides. This is the wisdom that endures when all else passes away.